Welcome back. So, by popular request, all right, let us discuss the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings are 2-8 in their last 10, and I say popular request because I've seen Red Wings fans asking for an updated video for about a week now. I've been seeing this in the comments. They are 2-8 in the last 10 games. They're 16, 15, and 4 overall. And so for some, the Yzer plan has already been a failure. For some, faith is wavering. I still believe in the Yzer plan. I just don't know how long it's going to take. 3 points right now. They sit outside the playoffs. They're behind the number 2 wild card spot, currently occupied by the Washington Capitals, who have played 3 fewer games. I've talked about teams chasing other teams down that have games in hand and said you can't assume a team's going to win games in hand in order for you to catch up. But also, when you're chasing other teams who've played fewer games, well, now they have to lose those games for you to stay within 3 points of the playoffs. It gets a little dicey the other way. So we'll talk about their last 10 games, and their first of the last 10 games they've played is against the Ottawa Senators. This was a home game for Detroit. They lose 5-1. So tough game. It was tied 1-1 after the first. Alex Lyons saved 21 out of 25. Reimer saved all 11 shots in relief, and Patrick Kane with the 1 goal. Patrick Kane has had good numbers. He's not been the problem. The interesting thing is, in the 11 games he's played, the record hasn't been great. So I'm not sure if maybe the addition of Kane changed something in this lineup, but at any rate, the record hasn't been great. Or he just showed up when things were starting to go south. Then they go on the road. They lose 6-3 against the Dallas Stars. They did score first. They trailed 4-3 in the third period before ultimately losing 6-3. Goals in that game came from Sprong, Berggren, as well as Veleno. Reimer saved 29 out of 34 that night in the net. Then on the road again, they won 6-4 against St. Louis. So by Craig Berube, they led 2-1 after the first. They trailed 4-0 after the second period, or 4-3, I should say, after the second period, and then they scored 3 in the third period to win it. Ville Husso, 33 saves on 37 shots. Goals came from Berggren, Fabry, Rasmussen, Raymond, Sider, and Wallman. So 6 different goal scorers. Things look good. Things look good. But then they come home and they lose 2-1 against Carolina Hurricanes. They trailed 2-0 in the second period, ultimately couldn't catch up. Husso had arguably his best game of the season that night. 37 saves on 39 shots, the 1 goal scored by Detroit coming from Michael Rasmussen. Then they go out on the road again, and they lose 1-0 against the Philadelphia Flyers. York had the goal in the first period, and Detroit just didn't have it. Lions saved 15 out of 16 and then got hurt. Husso came in relief and saved all 18 shots. So, goalie gets hurt. That's fine. You have 3 goaltenders. Well, no, you're down to 2. And now at home against the Anaheim Ducks, they lost 4-3. They trailed 4-0 in the second period. Ville Husso saves 6 out of 8. Reimer comes in relief, saves 12 out of 14. Husso has not been seen since. He's been injured. DeBrincat had 2 goals in that game. Petrie had a goal as well. So they trailed 4-0. They almost tie it. They end up losing it 4-3. Then on the road, they lost 5-2 against the Winnipeg Jets. They trailed that one 4-1 after the second period. James Reimer with 36 saves on 41 shots. The goals came from Mata and Patrick Kane. Then they come back home. They lose, or they won, I should say. Sorry, just basically habit there. They won 7-6 in a shootout over the Philadelphia Flyers to get revenge for the 1-0 loss. They led 5-1 after the first, though, so it looked like it was going to be a laugher, and then it wasn't. In fact, they trailed 6-5 in the third period before tying it and winning in a shootout. Reimer saved 37 out of 43 in that game. Kane had 2 goals. Comfort, Gostisbehere, Larkin, and Sprong all had goals in that 7-6 shootout win for the Detroit Red Wings. Then they go back to losing. So now I can say lost. They go on the road. They lose 3-2 against New Jersey, the last game before the Christmas break. They scored first. They led 2-1 after the second. Couldn't hold the lead. Hutchinson saves 33 out of 36 in the only game he's played. Gostisbehere and Kane had the goals for the Detroit Red Wings. And then last night on the road in Minnesota, they lose 6-3. It was tied 1-1 after the first. And it was tied 2-2 at one point in the second period. And then the floodgates opened. Reimer saves 25 out of 31. He has allowed 6 goals in his last 2 starts, and he allowed 5 goals in the start before that. So I understand why Detroit fans not overly impressed with Reimer at this stage. The goals in last night's game from Kane, DeBrincat, and Sprong. So when we look at the overall numbers, again, today they waive Hutchinson, meaning there's a goalie coming back. But the idea that, Reimer, maybe he shouldn't be on the roster, I get it. And the stats show it, and we'll talk about it. So in the month of December, DeBrincat's 13 games played, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. He's been good. Do you want an extra goal? Sure, maybe. But overall, a point per game, you can't complain. And Kane's been point per game as well. 11 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. So now that Kane's back up to speed, things are good for him, though things are not good for the team. Rasmussen, 13 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. I'm not going to say anything bad about Rasmussen. He's a very hard-working player and honestly, very successful, I think, in the role that he has with the Detroit Red Wings. Not a problem there. Sprong, 13 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Larkin's played 9 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points for him in the 9 games he's played. Raymond stands out here. Now, I know plus-minus is a very much looked-down-upon stat, but I want to talk about it in this video as well. Because, again, in isolation, when you're looking at just 1 or 2 players, it tells you either these players are getting really difficult assignments or they're not getting the results defensively that a coach would want. So for Raymond, 13 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. A minus 13 for Lucas Raymond. That's just, again, the defensive numbers not great there. Moritz Seider, 13 games, 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points for him. Same numbers for Gostisbehere. 13 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Fabry, 13 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. So Fabry, really strong start. Scoring's dropped off a little bit. Kopp, 13 games, no goals, just the 6 assists. So Andrew Kopp not living up to his contract this month. Veleno, 12 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. His plus-minus stands out too at minus 12. So both Raymond and Veleno with numbers that aren't really where you want them to be from that standpoint. And Berggren in 4 games has 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. I like Jonathan Berggren. I don't know why he's not in the lineup more often. And then you got Compher, 8 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. He's a minus 9. So Compher's numbers have fallen off. And Perron just has the 1 assist in the 7 games he's played. He's a minus 4. And of course, he missed 6 games due to the suspension. But either way, when he's been in the lineup, he has not been overly effective for them. Keep in mind that Perron at this point is above the age of 35, so you just never know what you're going to get there. And then the goaltending numbers. And yeah, these aren't great. Husso, 2-1-1 at the time he got hurt, 893 save percentage. He was trending in the right direction. So as long as Husso can come back soon, they're only 3 points out. Maybe there could be a turnaround there. Lyon, 1-2 record with an 890 save percentage. Similar story to Husso. I would think that if all the goalies were healthy, you go back to Husso and Lyon as your goaltenders, and then Reimer gets, potentially shopped around, see if a team wants a goaltender, and if Reimer's what they'd be looking for. He's 1-4, James Reimer, 862 save percentage. So rough numbers there. Hutchinson 0-1 in the 1 game he played against New Jersey. He came out of that one with a save percentage of 917. So for Detroit, it hasn't mattered whether they're on the road or at home. That's why I'm not looking at their upcoming schedule. It also hasn't mattered whether they're against a really good team that's above the playoff line or an iffy team that's below or near the playoff line. Detroit has found a way to lose consistently. The only 2 games they've won this month, against St. Louis, where they trailed after the second period, and then against Philadelphia, where they had to win in the shootout, even though they led 5-1 after the first period, and then allowed 5 straight goals before they tied it late in the third in order to get it into the overtime to get it to the shootout. So for Detroit, this has been a really rough month, and I'm not sure if this is a team that's going to turn it around soon. But for Detroit fans, I think missing the playoffs has become a bit of a tired trope. They want it to go away. They want to be back above the playoff line. In the East, it is very difficult. Not that it's easy in the West, but I do think it's a little bit easier in the West than in the East. And I think that's having an effect. But for the Detroit Red Wings, between Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa, it was expected one of them would end up likely in a playoff position, or at least really, really close and looking really good. Buffalo's been a disappointment. Ottawa's been a disappointment. And now Detroit qualifies as a disappointment there as well. So the powers that be in the Atlantic for right now are still the powers that be. Boston, Florida, Tampa Bay, those are your 3. And then from there, it's kind of iffy. And Detroit could find themselves finishing this season behind Montreal, which would be seen as a disaster. So then the question becomes, While Derek Lalonde is only in his second year, and I wouldn't necessarily put it on him, we're in an age where coaches getting fired seems like it's just commonplace. Or does the blame rest on Yzerman, or is the blame on the rest of us for expecting more from Detroit than can be expected of them yet? Do you still believe in the Yzer plan, or are you like, nope, let's get a new plan? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, because I know there's a lot of discontent with Wings fans right now when people are asking me to cover their team, specifically in a video on their team struggling right now. So that's a first that I can remember where a fan base, and again, I've been seeing comments for at least a week now of, you need to talk about the Wings. I think it's time for a video on the Wings and on what's going on. So here we are. It's not a pretty picture, but let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, and in the comment section below, let me know how you'd fix the Detroit Red Wings if you were in charge. You have one day in charge, one day. What would you do to try to fix it? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.